And we are live, and we are here with our last Spacebo finalist that we can get in touch with, and that's Tim Hawken, who's down in Australia. Tim, how are you doing today?
I'm well.
And I guess it's morning for you.
How are you doing tomorrow?
Yeah, I'm living in the future, which is perfectly sci-fi. It's Thursday morning here, so
the world doesn't end tonight. That's good.
No, that's good. There's no weird computer crashes or anything that are going to happen. So you guys are safe for at least another 12 hours.
Excellent.
Glad so we have out in Australia.
Parrot in the coal mine.
Yeah. Another Tim. This could be confusing.
So yeah, and Tim is Canadian, so we are definitely international tonight.
All the Commonwealth Tims. They call me Tim. Tim the Enchanter.
Yeah, Virginia is a Commonwealth, so.
Oh, well, yeah.
But my brother's named Tim, and you don't want to talk to him.
I have a brother named Tim as well.
Oh, they must be good blokes.
Well. So he has still never seen a show, nor will he subscribe to the channel, even though I'm like, you just have to subscribe. You don't have to watch.
Who?
And he's still my brother Tim. Yeah. So that's why I'm going to kill him off in my book.
Do it slowly.
So, Tim, I have a question that I want to ask you, and I hope that you don't just, leave when I ask. Have you ever cooked shrimp on the Barbie?
No.
I have. I cooked.
Okay, so Hollywood does not lie to us. Good.
Oh, it doesn't lie. Although the story behind that is we call them prawns.
Right.
So technically, like shrimps are like those little tiny things that you put on in a cocktail, like in a little shrimp cocktail or something. Where we've got jumbo prawns that are about this big. They're almost.
Oh my god! Seriously?
Yeah. They're
big. We call those lobster.
Yeah, well, I mean, they're definitely not as big as a lobster, but they're big. They're sort of, they call them banana prawns.
Oh.
And they're delicious. But yeah, it's definitely a major thing here. But they had to change the wording for the American audience.
So
yeah, prawn on the Barbie. It's especially with an Australian accent. It sounds too much like porn on the Barbie.
Yeah, for sure.
That's a whole other world of weirdness there.
I tell you what, like until I was about 21, I thought a pawn shop was something totally different, and I was like, what is these? Like America love these pawn shops. I guess you love both, but
pawn PAWN.
PAWN, exactly.
Okay.
Because we've got something called cash converters in Australia, but no one ever calls it a pawn shop.
So, Tim, I have one more question for you that we've asked our Australian guests, and then they disagree with us, but we have more North American audience, so they always lose. And that is, which continent has more dangerous animals on it, Northern America or Australia?
Well, I mean, if you count people as dangerous animals, there's definitely more in North America.
Yeah. No, we're not counting people.
You guys have 300 million dangerous animals. We've got only 30.
No, only half of them have guns.
Yeah.
Okay, they have 8
million dangerous animals. I mean, Australia's a pretty safe place. I have to say though, I was recently up on the top end, out back in the Northern Territory, and there was some 6 meter, which is, I don't know what's that, 18-foot long crocodiles. And they are terrifying. Like they are just like murder machines. And you're in a boat and there's one right there next to you in the river. And the guy that was driving the boat had this pork chop on a stick on like a little string. And he's like holding it out so that the croc jumps out of fully jumps out of the water to get it. And I'm like, let's not do that. That thing can jump in the boat. So, there's, I don't know. I think the only time I've ever felt really terrified traveling is in the States, but that was more because I got lost in LA and I went down the wrong street more than worrying about, wild animals.
You were on Rodeo Drive, weren't you?
Yeah, I was terrified.
All kinds of freaking weirdness there. You just,
Venice Beach. Venice Beach was an eye opener too. That place is interesting.
Yeah. So I can tell. I used to live in Florida, and there's a park I
That
do
explains a
walking
lot.
during the 2000 election, no less. But anyway, you'd go walking in the park, and there'd be alligators just sunning themselves, and you'd walk like 6 inches away from them, and they were just, when I showed my parents, my mom's like, "Oh, that's just made out of rubber. That's not real." I'm like, "You don't want to touch it and find out. Trust me."
People hitting them with rolled up newspapers.
But I mean, there's the freshwater crocodiles over here are really quite tame. Like I would happily walk right by one.
Yeah.
But the saltwater ones they're the ones that you need to worry about.
See, it's not so much the things that you can see, with the big giant teeth and all that. That doesn't bother me as much, right? Because their size is nature's way of warning you to stay the fuck away.
Yeah.
Right? It's all the little things that can kill you, that can crawl in the bottom of your sleeping bag or your bed or your shoes, or, if you come into your house and there's this big giant freaking spider hanging in the corner of that shit needs not happen.
Yeah. I mean, I warn my kids when we take the rubbish bins, or you might call them trash cans or something, out at night. There's redback spiders around the rim of the wheelie bin, and I'm like, just be careful. Like, grab it by the handle, just do a quick check, and they're there.
Yeah. Yep. When I was in Florida again, because I was Florida man, I noticed there's a black widow spider was in my garage. And so I was like, you know what? That's fine. It's small. It's not going to so I actually got a lighter and I started trying to light the web on fire. And I was like, you know what?
Really?
I own this house now. This is not a rental. I am doing this to my own property. Perhaps I should stop.
Okay, is that in a movie? At some point, someone sets a spider on fire and it runs into the house, and the house catches on fire.
I don't know, but my house is made out of cinder blocks, so I was probably okay. But I was like, I am leaving burn marks on the paint, and I'm like, perhaps I should not do this.
There is a reason that 9 out of 10 stupid headlines in this country start with a Florida man.
Yeah.
Ugh.
Oh, Darwin.
So anyway, Tim, I hear you have a book, and that might even be why you came on this channel.
Yeah, that's a good reason to talk to him.
Yeah, I do. There you go. You've got the paperback cover.
Yeah.
I'll see if I can grab the hardcover as well.
Yeah, I noticed they're different.
Oh, you don't have your book with you.
No, it is in the shelf though. So there's that's the hardcover version as
Nice.
well.
So I recommend people buy both in case you like one cover better than the other. You can't decide.
Yeah.
Right. Read the one you don't like and just leave the other one.
Definitely should buy both.
No, it definitely helps. But the story behind that was I originally launched the book on Kickstarter, and as part of the rewards, I had 3 artists do 3 different covers. And essentially the idea was that the top 2 backed covers would get the paperback and the hardback. And so a guy called Stefan Keudel did the paperback cover. He's from Austria, and then a guy from Sweden did this sort of cyberpunky looking cover as well. And I love both of them, so I'm really happy with how they turned out.
Is that your first book?
No, this would be my 6th book, I think. Something like that. I had a dark fantasy trilogy called Hellbound that did reasonably well around 2010 to 2015. And then I wrote a different, more literary fiction book under a pen name, which actually did reasonably well too. But then my love is dark fantasy and sci-fi. So then I came into Thrill Switch, and there's a couple of novellas in there as well.
So Tim, I have to say,
go ahead.
Tim, I have to say that Wick Welker would call this a novella. I mean, the judges have to love you that your book is only 255 pages.
Yeah. So it's 90,000 words. So it's funny. I tell my kids, they're like, "How long are your books?" I'm like, 90,000 words. This one, it's not too long. And they're like, 90,000 words? That's so long. I have to write a 1,000 word essay this week. And so, yeah, I mean, I try and make things as fast and easy, but as entertaining as possible to read as well.
And now I forgot what I was going to ask. Damn it.
That's what I'm here for, Ro. So I have one more question about Australia in general.
Good.
Then I promise we'll go back to your book.
Yeah, no worries.
So how cold does it get in the winter there?
Not cold. I mean, it depends where you are. And we're gonna have to do some napkin conversions, which aren't that easy between Celsius and Fahrenheit. But where I am today is about 20 degrees. So that's, I don't know, probably 70s or 80s or something.
60s, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. And so we're in the first month of winter here. So it's, I'm in a t-shirt and a light kind of jacket thing.
Yeah, 68, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. 68. There you go. So not too bad. And then, but then in Tasmania, which is like the kind of most southern state, closest to Antarctica, your maximums are down to the single digits, 8 or 9 degrees in the middle of winter and below freezing. But nothing like the northern states where you guys are. And then we've got the Gold Coast, which is like Florida, really. It's the Florida of Australia.
I don't know if you should ever use that. That is not a selling point.
That's their next advertising campaign because they want less people to come there. There's too many people there.
The Florida of Australia, all the tank tops and,
Yeah. High rises on the beach, balmy weather, lots of retirees. And yeah.
My God, it is Florida.
Yeah, right. So you said you've been publishing since at least 2010?
2010, yeah. I think that's when my first book came out.
I think that goes back further than most people we've talked to. How have you seen the change in direct publishing through KDP or whatever since 2010 to now? Because that's when it really changed, wasn't it? Like the 2010 to 2014 timeframe? Yeah,
for sure. So my first book was through a publisher. So I wasn't doing the direct sort of thing at that point. But they were using it as a tool, and we did some giveaways and things. I would say that the competition was a hell of a lot less back then. There just weren't nearly as many people doing self-publishing, or even publishers using KDP to push out books that they've published as well. And so it's just gotten a lot more sophisticated. There's a lot more ads. If you're running ads, you're competing. If you're running a giveaway, I think we ran a giveaway for Hellbound and did next to no. I think I put it on my Twitter, and I think it was something like 10,000 downloads in 24 hours. Whereas you do something like that now, and you've got a small following on Twitter, you might get 100. So there's a big difference there. But also there's a higher demand for quality. I think people, if there's typos, if there's shoddy editing, people are very quick to stop reading now. Whereas I think they were a lot more forgiving back then too, because it was, you saw that it was self-published and people were doing their best. And so people were still really encouraging if there were a few mistakes and bits and pieces in there.
I think people are pretty forgiving even now.
Yeah.
With the odd spelling error. Right?
Yeah, I think if it's the occasional one,
right,
totally fine. But yeah, if it's obvious, if it's terrible, then they'll tear it apart pretty quickly.
I think if you make sure your first 2 chapters are absolutely clean.
Yeah, I was going to say, not the first 30 pages.
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
After that, they'll kind of go, it's been 200 pages. Fine, because you can't read a newspaper article anymore, 500-word editorial without finding a freaking error in it.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, and I think the thirst for the speed of journalists having to put things out has increased so much. I was actually talking with a journalist friend the other day about this, and it's like, what's changed a lot? He goes, "Are you kidding? I used to write one article a month. Now I'm writing 3 a day, and I'm getting paid the same amount of money." But he also said
a lot more too, right? They're not just writing. They're writing, they're editing, they're taking photos, they're doing video, they're putting stuff up online. They're their own headline writer. All of that stuff. They're doing it all.
Yeah,
EL is bringing the shade tonight. Can't wait for him to get banned. And look at that. I'm saying you bring in the shade because I'm talking like a youngin now.
Yeah.
The people I work with are all under like 32, and they're like, please don't say that. Please don't do that.
Do what?
Whenever I try to talk like them, they do not like it.
Yeah, my kids are the same. There's a couple of new words now. It's if you used to say that's bullshit, and my kids go, that's cap, and I'm like, what?
That's what?
That's cap.
CAP?
CAP. Smells like cap. That's cap. And I'm like, I don't know. I don't even know what that means, boys, but I'll run with it. I understand the context.
Yeah. Well, see, that's the thing, what Bo is saying here. My point of this is, I think a lot of the traditional publishing now, you will still find those errors in it, right? And I'm not saying that we should just say, well, fuck it. It's in traditional publishing. We can have, but there are rules on how many mouse hairs you can have in your hot dog, right?
Yeah.
So I think there's an acceptable number of spelling errors in a 100,000 word book. And it's probably like less than 5. But we agree with each other is my point, but I don't think it needs to get that critical.
The whole mouse hairs in hot dogs, I do not agree with. I don't think there's a limit.
2.
You're thinking feces. Hairs are different. There is a limit.
I don't eat hot dogs.
EL, you do see a surfboard in the corner as well. So that's actually a collector's item. It was a Mark Richards twin fin who was a 4 times world champion Australian surfer. So he's caught me out. I'm definitely an absolute. Aside from being a total book nerd, I'm an absolute surf nerd as well.
Nice.
That's not nice. Be able to live in a place where you can just stop writing for a bit. And how far are you away from a beach?
I'm about 5 minutes or so from the beach, so yeah, nice and close. And that's my peace of mind. Or if I've hit a roadblock, it's the perfect place to go. And you often get hit with inspiration in the water, or even just going for a walk through the bush or something like that. It's a good way to re-energize and get the ideas running again.
Realistically, like 90% of Australians are within 20 miles of the ocean, right?
Yeah. It's all concentrated on the coast. It's pretty much desert.
Well, that's where the boats go off. That makes sense.
Yeah. So
get the fuck out. This is where you live now. Off you go.
Yeah, exactly.
What are people saying? People are writing really long things.
Yeah. We're talking about 90,000 words. This has got to be at least 120.
EL says get a pet shark and get inspired. I'm not sure that's the way that works.
Oh, you'll be inspired.
Yeah, Bo Kelly's I think got a good point where the quality he believes the traditional publishing qualities maybe scaled back a bit while indie has risen. And like I say, I think that's a matter of, one, traditional publishers are under a lot more pressure to get more content out faster, right, because they're always criticized with being too slow. And indies are just facing so much competition that unless you pick up your game and invest in editing and great book covers and things like that, you're just not going to. People aren't even going to pick you up. So it's merging, and I think the big advantage of traditional publishing now is is distribution into brick and mortar stores. Even their marketing, if you're a small author they've just signed, you're getting about the same marketing support as you are if you're doing it yourself. Maybe a tiny bit more. You've got access to their PR lists and things like that. But if you want to be in bookstores, it's really, really, really hard as an indie author.
Yeah. That's all right. We don't need no stinking bookstores.
Yeah. Well, in Australia, you've got to drive just as far to a bookstore as you do, to drive to the city. So it's one of those things. I mean, I'm a huge fan. My local bookstore carries my books, and they're amazing, amazing people. But it's a lot of work if you want to be in every bookstore, and a lot of them they only take you on consignment. So you put in 10 books, they sell 5, you take 5 back. All that work to do just by yourself, it kind of means it's just not worth it. And so yes, local bookstores I'm all down for, and they're great, but I concentrate most of my efforts online.
Well, you kind of almost have to, because I mean,
only 3 people read fantasy in Australia anyway, so and
it's not bad, but I mean, you've got what, 5, 6 cities of any size?
Yeah, I mean, the two
they're
cities
all wicked far away from each other.
Yeah, 2 cities with 5 million.
If we lived where we lived and we wanted to go do a comic book show, we'd either have to go to freaking Maine or California, right? So that's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, they're actually, like I joke, there's a really great thriving sci-fi, fantasy, and comic scene in Australia.
Mm-hmm.
But in terms of size, I mean, compared to you guys, it's still tiny. And we've got a lot of super passionate readers. We've got Supernova Con over here, which is really great. But it's not that there's nothing. It's just that the numbers are nowhere near what they are in the UK and the USA.
How many people live in Australia?
30 million, pushing 30 million.
Oof.
You find that
California.
A lot of that kind of pop culture kind of stuff over there is more heavily influenced by Japan and Korea?
I mean, people love anime. There's no doubt about that. But I would still say that we're mostly influenced by America, and by pop culture, a lesser extent the UK, but mostly the USA is where we get all of our comic books. And I mean, Marvel's still huge here. It's kind of slowed a bit because I think everyone's sick of superhero movies. But
no, we're not sick of superhero movies. We're sick of bad superhero movies.
Bad superheroes, yeah, for the sake of making one.
Right. I mean, Marvel has put out some really questionable stuff over the last couple of years.
I have to say,
I haven't even watched it all.
The Across the Spider-Verse, the animated ones that they did, I've just thought they were amazing. I was really,
those are really good. Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think those were Sony. I don't think those are Marvel, because Sony owns the right to Spider-Man. So
that's right, because they have to. Aren't they under contract to put one out every certain amount of time as well?
They cut some deal with Marvel to print money, to let Marvel borrow Spider-Man for a certain amount of projects.
Yeah,
but yeah, and then they're kind of tagging on to what Marvel does because Sony movies generally suck. Yeah. There is cons close to your row. I'm going to one in August, which should have around 80,000. Where the hell's that, Bo?
That's massive. Like, there's no way we would get even close to that in Australia.
That's Dragon Con. That's what, like 6, 7, 8 hours away?
Yeah, it's like 7 or 8 hours. That's not close. I mean, unless you're NASA, but then it's close. But also, Dragon Con is really difficult to get into, and it's super expensive. I hope you do really well down there. I would love to go to Dragon Con. It sounds like a good time.
Well, I think Bo is going to be entertained. I don't think he's an author, so it's just fun for him. It's
Right.
not the staring, relentlessly at the crowd, hoping one actually comes and talks to you.
No, I mean, yeah, there's a lot of good shows around. That's not the issue. So, when you found out, is this the first time that you've ever entered Spacebo?
Yeah, it is.
We'll get back to your book eventually.
That's right. I mean, like, because I'm a massive fan of Hugh Howey, and basically I heard about it when it first came out through his newsletter, and I was working on Thrill Switch at the time. I was like, perfect. Once I've finished, that's going to be the first thing I enter. And so when the opportunity arose, I was really excited to put it in, and not expecting too much because I know how fierce the competition is. So to make the quarterfinals, I was like, this is amazing. I was super excited. And then the semifinals and now the final, it's just, it's really just gobsmacking. And for, a kind of niche little guy sitting in Western Australia and this tiny little pocket of the world is pretty cool to be able to connect with folks like you. And
did you call your wife when you found out, just like they do on the Great British Baking Show, and say, hey, I was Star Baker, I made it to the quarterfinal?
She was next to me in bed when I was looking at my phone. I was like, no way. She's like, what happened? And it was a couple of days after the fact because we were away somewhere, and I just happened to open Twitter and someone had posted about it on Twitter. I had heard just totally indirectly, and so yeah. Then I was like, hang on a sec, I've got to send some stuff out. So I was sending it out and sharing, but just really exciting. It was genuinely just unexpected, but also just such a thrill to be recognized by your peers in a way, like bloggers and book reviewers and people who love this stuff as much as I do. It's one thing to have someone, a friend read it and go, oh, this is really great. You're like, yeah, well, you're kind of obliged to read it. To have people, total strangers, read your work and enjoy it is another level of enjoyment altogether.
I imagine that would be pretty cool. Close-ish.
So I can tell you it's cheaper to send to India than it is to most countries or all countries in Europe because I've done both.
Yeah, I mean, I've definitely sold a few books in India.
India, let's see. It's fucking
yeah.
Where the film is.
Yeah, close-ish.
Yeah, no.
Okay, now show Australia versus America.
It's funny. Last time I've been to India, and when I went there, I went to the Jaipur Literary Festival, which was packed, packed. And really, really cool to see. But then you go to the streets of Mumbai, and not every street corner, but there's a massive amount of pirated books because I guess it's so normally people don't bother because it's so expensive to print out a book, right? But over there was so many knockoff books just on street corners and things. I was just like, whoa, this is I think it would be difficult to break through there just because there's so much piracy going on.
Yeah. All the reviews you could get.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, I was actually amazed. Over there, I was expecting to struggle not knowing any Hindi. Everyone speaks it. Well, not everyone, but a vast amount of people speak English, and it was really easy to get around. Really lovely country.
Are we ready for a silly question?
Oh yeah, let's go.
Yes, please do. Otherwise, I'm going to say something.
Silly questions.
So, because I have I actually selected the questions this time that I want to ask you.
He spent time making up questions, thinking I
appreciate the preparation. Let's go.
Okay, a super intelligent AI is created in near future Las Vegas with your. Oh wait, it's different. Sorry. Anyway, go. Sorry. Let me read the right question.
Use your finger if you have to, Mike. It's all right.
An experiment to create artificial life goes horribly wrong in near future Las Vegas, unleashing a deadly creature upon the world. What does your main character do?
Okay.
Pulls a pork chop out on a boat.
Yeah.
Tries to bring it away.
Exactly. Runs for their life. I think, you know, I actually had kind of similar idea to this for a book where someone they invented like a biological printer, which actually I don't think are very far off, and they decided it'd be a great idea to print out a couple of vampires and some zombies from their favorite movies, and then they had to print out Van Helsing to kill them all in the end. Is the kind of the idea. So I think the maybe the strategy, instead of trying to get it yourself, is try and find a scientist who can create a equally powerful but on your side monster that can destroy it.
You realize this is how COVID started.
Yeah, exactly.
Let's not make this. Let's not do that.
I can see the comments just about to come out now.
Yes,
Well,
the
last
tens of
comment we got
people
here is from EL, and I don't know how you could say that about frickin' Bag End in the Shire that is
The
New
Shire.
Zealand.
Middle Earth.
And even that's like what, 400 miles away, right? New Zealand.
Yeah,
I mean,
well, from here, they're 2 time zones away from Western Australia, so we're 4 hours behind them time wise, and we would have to fly from here to Melbourne, which is 4 hours, 3.5 hours, and we'd have to then jump on another plane and fly another 3.5 to 4 hours to Auckland. So it's about an 8-hour plus trip on an aeroplane.
And I'm assuming your airplane experience is like ours, and you're actually in the air for like, an hour and a half of that, and you're just like circling or else waiting to take off the other 6.5 hours.
No, it's actually pretty good. I think because we don't have as many people, so our airports aren't as busy, and we've got plenty of space, so they just build lots of runways. So we're up and down fairly quickly. It's all flight time.
I'm jealous then, because you'd have to factor in at least 2 hours of waiting.
Yeah, wow.
Yeah, wow. Have you read any of the other books that you're up against?
I haven't. It's terrifying because they're really good. 3 Grams of Elsewhere is, I think, is really amazing. It's one of those things where it's so inspiring to read other books that you're in a competition with and get a lot out from it and be kind of blown away by the quality and like, oh, there's no way I can stack up against this, and then realize that you kind of already have in a way. So it's really humbling and just such a great experience. And the community around it too, like there's a Discord going where we're chatting with each other, and it looks like we're going to get together for I don't know if it's a YouTube thing or just a group chat online this weekend. So it's unusual in the sense where it's a very inclusive competition and everyone's happy for each other. There's no cattiness, there's no backstabbing, at least that I've seen. There might be in the background people writing false reviews and things.
We're going to find a contest where there is, Mike.
I know.
We're going to get those people on here and celebrity
all at
death
once.
Kind of stuff.
Let the claws come out.
Yeah. But I think if all of us have had the same experience where we're working solitary most of the time. You put out your work, not quite sure what's going to happen, and because we all understand each other's experience, you're all very friendly with each other because there's just no use in being like that.
Right.
I'd so much rather share and help than be miserable and bag people out. So I'm so pleased. It is really, really good vibes in the back end of the contest as well as the front end.
I was going to say, how much is your ebook? Do you sell it for?
At the moment, it's $4.99. Oh wow, I'm pretty sure. depending on how things go with the finals, I may end up dropping that to 99 cents just to make it easy for people to pick up.
I'm just thinking, I'm like, there's not a competition, because I mean, if they can afford $5 for your book, they can afford $3 for mine. And you're not competing. It's not like there's one sale that's going to be made and you have to fight tooth. So I mean,
right.
If you're doing that over a $4.99 book, then okay, you got issues.
Yeah, no, exactly. And that's it. It's like, people don't read one book, do they? And the funny thing, like, I mean, if anyone's like me, I buy 3 books a time on a Kindle, and then I might not read it for a year, one of them. And so it's just, you're supporting writers when you're doing this. And Jeff Bezos, he needs some extra money, so jump into Amazon.
He does. He's not doing very well. I mean,
I don't know. Spent too much on penis-shaped rocket ships.
Well, it's very hard making one shaped like a vulva. So
okay, well, that's even more exciting.
The aerodynamics are all off, and it's just.
I was just going to ask. So you're supposed to read books you buy for Kindle?
Yeah, right.
Because I'm really good at buying them. I am really good at buying them.
Yeah, no, I'm the same, and so look, and sometimes they don't work out, and that's fine too.
You're like, do I return this 99-cent book?
Yeah, no.
Oh wait, it's not worth my time.
Exactly.
I heard on a podcast today driving home, this lady said, if you ever start feeling kind of, when you feel you don't belong, imposter syndrome, she said, read a bad book.
Yeah.
Right? Because a good book is aspirational. Right? You kind of aspire to do that. Whereas a bad book is motivational. Yeah. It's like, I can do better than that,
Yeah. And I think that's probably why I wrote my first book. It was just like, I'd read a series of terrible books. I was like, I can do better than this. This is easy. And then you
read the whole series.
That's right.
So were they that bad if you read the whole series?
No. As in, like, I had read 3 or 4 bad books in a row from different people, and down a set, like, not read the whole series.
Gotcha.
That's my communication skills getting in the way, which isn't ideal for someone who earns a living from communicating. But it definitely is. I think you're right, Ro, that you read something, or and often you'll see something that's not quite up to scratch, and it is a kick in the pants to go, I can do this. And I think there's people out there making a living just because they've given themselves permission to do it. And there's so many writers that are much more talented than I am, that just haven't released a book because they're scared, or they're holding themselves back because it's not perfect. And I just say to them, just finish it is the first thing, because you learn so much more from actually finishing a book, and then you can go back and pull stuff out and change things. And and once it's finished, it just becomes a whole less scary too. And I mean, the amount of people I meet that's like, I'd love to write a book one day, or I've worked on a couple of books and I haven't finished them. It really is just, the key is you've got to finish that first terrible draft and realize it probably is going to be terrible, and go from there. And it becomes a hell of a lot easier once you've actually finished something.
And after you finish that first one, you kind of sit there and go, well, that wasn't so bad. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'll do that again.
Well, and the funny thing is, you send it out and no one reads it. You take that as a failure, but no one's seen you fail because no one's read it. So, oh well, go again.
Much better now.
So, which do you prefer? Do you prefer writing your first draft, or do you prefer editing it?
I definitely, so I like starting and finishing a first draft. I'm in the middle of a draft for a new book at the moment, and the middle, it just is, it's the worst. That's when all the self-doubt creeps in, and it's like, this sucks, how am I going to get through this? It's dragging, and you just really have to persist. And so I love starting, I love the last 10 chapters because you can see the end and you get really excited and race towards that. And then I do really like pulling it apart and editing as well. And I didn't like it at the start. I think one of the key things I've learned over the years is to take feedback. Like I would give someone feedback and say, give me some feedback on this book. And what I was really saying was, tell me this is amazing. And then they come back and actually give you some constructive feedback. And you're like, oh, they hate me. They're against me. But they don't know what they're talking about. You almost go through the 5 stages of grief. And then eventually you get to acceptance and you're like, yeah, they're right. And you get on with it. And so I still go through that, but I go through it a lot faster than I used to. And now when I hand something to someone and they go, this is really great, I'm like, no, I want you to tell me what sucks about it. Like, when did you feel like putting it down? Because you can't get better. Otherwise you can't improve your work if you don't have honest and kind-hearted people that are really giving you feedback for a good reason rather than they're not trying to tear you down. If they've taken the time to read a 90,000, 100,000, 200,000 word manuscript, they're on your side.
And the thing is, I think it's kind of analogous to in World War II, right? They were trying to figure out how to make airplanes more survivable in combat. And so, of course, the military said, well, let's take a look at all the planes that have been shot up and see what, and some smarter person said, no, we need to find some of the planes that have been shot down, right? And take a look at those, because if they made it back and got shot up, that part's not an issue, right? That part doesn't need to be changed. We need to find the ones that got shot down and find out where they got shot so we can fix those places. And that's kind of what you're asking people to do is, I know there are parts of this that are okay. I don't care about those. Show me the parts that are screwed up that I can fix. And people, I think you almost have to explain that to people so that they give you the feedback that you want, right? Because most people, unless you're from Florida, are going to try to be nice to you.
Do you have anyone in Florida that watches?
Actually, I shouldn't have said Florida. I should have said like New York or Boston.
Yeah, equal opportunity.
You think you're a writer? Out of here.
So
but to your point, when I send books to beta readers now, I will actually list a few things at the start just to help them. It's like, when were you bored? When were you confused? Just a little bit of a list of questions to help guide them on the feedback that they can give me that will be helpful.
And how long did it take before you actually got that kind of feedback in any useful form?
I've been doing this for about almost 15 years now. So it's probably took 10 years to just find a group of people I really trust and are willing to read stuff that's not perfect either. And so, I'm fortunate. I've built up a little circle of people who I really value their feedback and will listen to it straight away. And, always looking for more, but it does take time and patience and understanding too, because, you give it to someone who has the best intentions to read it, but everyone's busy and you want feedback yesterday, but they might take 6 months to get back to you. And by then you're on your 3rd draft and you're like, you could have told me this earlier.
Right. I already cut that part.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's difficult, but it is rewarding when it comes together.
Now, are you one of those people who, I guess I would say fortunate, but maybe not, who your writing pays your rent?
No. Well, I am in the sense that I do a lot of advertising campaign, copywriting work, and brand stories for websites and things like that. So my writing earns a living, but my fiction, it earns a reasonable amount, but it's not, it's not supporting my family just yet.
So, and you said you have 6 books?
6. Yeah, I think something like 6, something like that. Yeah, that's I think that's part of the secret too. Is I'd love to be a little faster at writing, but the more you have come out, every time you come out with one, people will often buy your back catalogue. And the best advertising for your old books is a new one. So you've just got to keep writing. And the big challenge I have is trying to stay in the same genre and the same, I love sci-fi and fantasy, but then there's all the splinter genres of cyberpunk and this and that, and people want you to stay in your lane. And I read broadly. I have a lot of different ideas. So to be able to focus on one lane that's my biggest challenge, to build up that audience in a certain area.
I think too, though, sometimes you have to explore a little bit to find out maybe what you thought was your lane isn't your lane. I mean, it might be what you like to read, but maybe it's not what you're really good at writing, But like we had the guy on the other night who was all over the board. Maybe you ought to use a pen name.
Yeah. Well, like I say, I did that. I did a literary fiction book and used a pen name, and the book did fine, but I also wasn't interested in pursuing that as a long-term thing. So I'd much prefer to write in sci-fi and fantasy. And I think there's wiggle room to move within that space. But, if all of a sudden I came out with a crime thriller, you lose a lot of your audience. Not everyone, but you want to try and stick at least within that space. And yeah, for me, that's a real challenge, because I love doing different things. And I don't want to feel like I'm pigeonholed into one thing. I want to enjoy what I do. So that's a constant struggle, just an internal personal struggle, but it's something that I know I need to do. But often I find myself writing something different and going, oh, hang on. Get back in there.
So your book takes place in Vegas?
Yes. Yep.
Have you been to Vegas?
Yeah, a bunch of times.
Bunch of times.
Yeah. I mean, so
maybe we shouldn't ask.
Yeah, no. I just find it such an intriguing city. So I mean, the first time I went there, I was there for I think 48 hours, and I was like, "Get me out of here! I've had enough. Like, I want to get off the merry-go-round."
Yes, that is the proper answer.
Yeah, 48 hours is like the perfect amount of time. But I've been for trade shows. I used to work in sales, so I went for a couple of different trade shows there and got to see a little bit of a different side to it. And Las Vegas is more than the Strip. And I didn't realize that, the first time for sure, because that's where I spend all my time. But it's just such an interesting place in terms of people coming there to just let loose. And it's kind of like, that saying, what goes in Vegas stays in Vegas, which isn't true,
yeah.
But people kind of still have that mindset where they just let it all go.
Yeah.
And I just find that fascinating. And it's a great place to set fiction, because anything can happen and people let out their darker sides. And that's even the Hellbound series that I wrote. Initially, there's a lot of that set in Vegas and San Francisco, because I'd just done a trip to those two cities. Just love both of those places.
Yeah, Vegas is. I've only been there a couple times. I think that's probably an acquired kind of taste, But I think you're probably right. 48 hours is probably about the right amount of time.
I mean, if you're doing Vegas for what people know Vegas for, unless you're just a machine, I can't handle any longer than that. But I'm sure the people who live there have this totally different view of it. And
they never go to the Strip.
No,
I talked to people who lived there before, and they said the only time they ever go to the Strip is when friends or neighbors come to visit, and they kind of have to bring them.
Yeah.
But they stay well away from it.
So when I was in Florida, the only time I ever went to the beach or to Disney World was when people came down and like, let's go there. I'm like, or not.
Yeah.
How about we don't?
But that's the whole. That's the that's the appeal to the outside world, and and also that's what fuels the entire city. Like I think the people who live there, I think a lot of them probably don't like the Strip and have a lot of grumbles about it, but they might not have a living if that wasn't there, because that's the only reason the place exists is for it's adult Disneyland.
Yeah. There's no reason for anybody to live. I think the same thing at Phoenix, right? All I can think of is like sometime in the 1800s, somebody was on a wagon train going across the country, and what the hell happened where they stopped in where Phoenix is and said, "This looks like a good place."
I think they probably went, "This'll do."
No
There's no water here. There's nothing here. Keep going.
I can't. I haven't been to Phoenix.
But I don't know what makes people stop where they stop. It seems like a silly, silly place.
Yeah,
it is. I've been there. It's terrible.
Yeah, it is. All right, Mike, you had several questions lined up.
I do.
I know you were very proud of them.
I don't know about proud, but I can't wait to ask this one. To solve all of humanity's problems, a super intelligent AI is created with your exact personality. How does the world fare?
Oh, mate, the world wouldn't be in a basket in a very short amount of time. Solve all the world's problems. I can't even solve my problems, let alone humanity's. Unless, I think, the old joke, I'm sure you guys have a similar thing, is I'll just say to a few friends, let's go and have a beer at the pub and solve the world's problems together. Because that's the best thing to do, is you talk about all the problems, you come up with all these easy solutions, and it all sounds great until the rubber hits the road. So I would, I think I would unleash that AI on a different planet and just as an experiment and see what happened.
I'm saying an intoxicated AI now. Okay, I think there's a story here.
Yeah, with a bunch of AI friends going, let's go here, guys. Let's go to the Arizona of the solar system.
You realize what you've just described is, let's go fuck up somebody else's world.
Yeah.
And see how it works. And that's exactly what the British Empire did when they dropped a bunch of people off on your shores.
Exactly. It didn't work.
It's like, we got this problem. Oh, there's a big empty space.
Yeah.
It's not actually empty.
Yeah.
Same thing they did here, I guess.
Yeah.
Right? So.
Yeah. So maybe we shouldn't.
The good part of all that is, as you alluded to earlier, is you can go to India now and most people speak English.
Yes.
So there's that. I guess give them somebody to play cricket against as well. So there's that too.
So I know you said that you advertise your books a lot. Do you advertise in US? Do you do all over the globe? How do you do this?
Yeah, mostly the US and the UK. I have had a much better time with Meta than I have with Amazon, which surprised me. I expected Amazon, ads because you're directly where people are ready to go and you've got book lovers there. That the return on investment would be a lot better. But I've found that Facebook in particular, which is, I don't really spend much time on Facebook myself. I'm more on Instagram. But yeah, just in terms of the actual cut through, it seems like that platform it works really well for me. So that's where I concentrate most of it. And then also, I recently did get approved for a deal on BookBub just in the UK. And that did really well. I think that's, from what I hear, it used to be bigger and better, but I still found it a really valuable thing. So if people are trying, just keep trying. And once you get on, it is still definitely worth the investment. It's still, I think it was 700 Australian dollars, so about $6 American or something to make it happen. But yeah, it was worth it. I think it turned a profit.
So
don't be sure. Here we go.
There we go. So I was going to say earlier, Tim, we had another author on. He told us that once he got to about 10 books, that's when he could quit his job and he made enough money to, make it by. He's like, not replace the salary, but I could, make ends meet.
Yes.
So that's always kind of like the magic number in the back of my head.
So I only got to put out one more.
Yeah.
And then magically I will start making money.
Yes.
Just a really good one.
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Yeah. But
just change your pen name to Ryan Cahill when you publish your next book and you'll be fine.
Actually, a good story on the music side of things. I was at a wedding a while ago and was talking to this guy, and his name's Sam Smith, and he's a musician. And he was on Spotify as Sam Smith first. And then the mega superstar Sam Smith from the UK comes out. And the first month, this guy I was talking to at the wedding made $30,000 on Spotify because people were listening to his music flat out thinking it was this other Sam Smith. And he's like kind of rock and roll punk kind of music, totally different. And he still makes, a decent amount of money just because he's a genuine Sam Smith. And he's like, spoke to his lawyer. He's like, what do I do here? He's like, well, your name's Sam Smith. You're on the platform first. Just keep going.
Cash that check, baby.
Yeah.
Unfortunately,
so I'm legally changing my name to Stephen King, and we're off.
Yeah, there you go. I'm not going to. No, Mike, ask another one of your questions. I'm not going to ask it. I'm not going to
Let's go.
So what is the weirdest thing that you've researched for a book?
Oh man. So I often wonder if the CIA or the FBI, the NSA, or one of the acronyms is I could be, because recently I've been researching a lot of like how to make bombs and
well, then I guarantee somebody in an intelligence service is watching at least a little bit, but they're going to put it together very quickly what you do.
Yeah.
What it is. But yeah, if you're researching how to make bombs, that has pinged in a dark room somewhere.
Yeah, and I was actually surprised how easy it was to find how to make a fertilizer bomb. Not recommending anybody listening to this to do anything like that, but yeah, there's definitely some weird. Like, I think that was probably not the weirdest, but definitely the one where I was like, oh, if someone's looking at, like, even if my wife's looking at this, she'll understand. But someone pulls up, a work colleague or something's like, oh no, what's going on here? But yeah, often Googling weird and wonderful things and listening to obscure podcasts about virtual reality, and particularly when it came to Thrill Switch, there was a podcast called Voices of VR, and just went through their whole catalog, just trying to pick out little bits of technology and hearing cool things like, they're working with the military on fear acclimatization and things like that in virtual reality. And it really is a joy of being a writer, is being able to go down these weird little threads and learn weird little things. And if anything, they make for good dinner party anecdotes. We're like, did you know that
you could
do you know how to make a fertilizer bomb? Let's go.
Yeah.
So in my book that's coming out next month, I put an Easter egg in there for other chemists. So at one point where they're talking about, the engines and how to get it, and the woman goes, check the dynamic contact angle and see if that's correct or not. And all that is you have a drop of water on a plane and you tilt it and you just take pictures of the drop as it distorts until it finally falls. That's a dynamic contact angle. You're taking pictures of water, a drop of water. But I'm like, no, it's a thing for space engines. Check that direct. I'm like, only chemists will get this. And I'm like, I can't wait until someone tells me. It'll probably be 2044 and I'll be, have a drool cup, but I cannot wait for that moment.
Oh, John's trying to get under us, man. The last time a great American novel was written. Well, what's great, right? In 11th grade, I did a report on the Red Badge of Courage and said it sucked. My English teacher disagreed and Roe failed that assignment, even though I thought I was perfectly well within my right to say that Stephen King was paid, or Conrad, or whatever the hell his name was paid too much for that. So what is a great American novel, right? I mean, is it Hemingway? No, because Hemingway blows, right? Is it Mark Twain? Possibly. Depends what he's talking about, you know. So,
well, if you're from the Richmond, Virginia area, you have to say Edgar Allan Poe.
yeah, okay.
The poetry was better than the longer stuff.
The fact that people are still writing them at all gives me hope. You know, that, you know, maybe the world won't be run by morons entirely. So it doesn't matter if it's great or not, as long as it keeps happening, I think, is the important part.
Well, the great literary tragedy is that in 5th grade, I wrote a wonderful story called Tom the Loudmouth Penguin, and it had nothing to do with my brother named Tom. But sadly, that story has been lost to time, and no one else will be able to relive it.
I look forward to seeing it on Kindle soon.
E.L. Ernest Hemingway. No. He was short little sentences that repeated themselves a lot. It's fucking tedious.
I did like Old Man in the Sea.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. I have tried to read that book several times.
You're wrong. That is a great book.
There's a good audiobook version. I'm pretty sure maybe it's Donald Sutherland does the audio. That might help you get through it.
I think I'm just too jaded against it now because I've tried reading it several times. And I mean, the last time I tried it was years ago, but I said, look, everybody keeps saying this is great. I'm going to try to get through it. Right. And I didn't make it that far. It's, you know, the old women were crying by the beach as their babies washed in the shore. And then it was like, okay, we get it already. Move on.
Yeah. I mean, it's horses for courses, right? I think there's a often touted as the best novel ever, the greatest novel ever written, is Swan's Way by Proust. And I tried 3 times and was like, either there's something wrong with me or there's something wrong with the book. And I choose to say that there's something wrong with the book.
There you go. I'm perfectly willing to accept that there's something wrong with me.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fully on board with that.
But you are an author. So
what's that?
You are an author. So yeah.
Even before then, there's always been something rattling around in there that probably ought not to be, you know. But
what's wrong with trying to hang out with pretend people instead of real ones? What's wrong with that?
Yeah.
Nothing. At all.
No. So, let's not tell anyone else otherwise, because otherwise we'd all be out of a gig.
So what are you going to do with your ray gun if you win it?
Probably take it down to the pub and fire it off into the sky a few times.
Will it get a position next to your surfboard over there in the corner?
Absolutely. It'll have pride of place on the shelf. You know, then I'll just keep writing the next book. I mean, at the end of the day, you've got to keep writing. And but I mean, if it has, I guess I've got a 1 in 6 shot-ish, right? So I'd definitely celebrate for quite a while, but at the end of the day, you've just got to keep writing and keep putting out the next thing. And once I finish this next piece I'm writing, and it'll be a sequel for Thrill Switch, is the next one after that, because I think when people take an interest in a character, Ada Byron, the detective in it, seems to resonate with a lot of people. I'd like to continue that, and she's a lot of fun to write, and I guess people get that. So, you know, like keeping readers happy as much as I like enjoying it myself. So that'll be the next thing.
So I don't want to get spoilery, but the sequel to Thrill Switch, is that going to also take place in Vegas, or is it going to be a different city?
No, it'll be Vegas. That's where she's based. She's Vegas PD. And they've essentially, the idea is that everything's moved onto VR, and so all the casinos have run down because no one wants to come and gamble in the real world anymore when you can just jump online and get the same experience without leaving your home. So they've converted that all into what they call jack-in centers, where people can come and get the fastest kind of connection, and all their power grids serve power servers now, and it's the virtual reality hub of the world. And so it'll be set there, and then there's also the Holos, which is the virtual world where a lot of the bad shit happens.
Can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
You do a VR training scene for her, and the scenario is her in Florida. And that way you can make a bunch of Florida jokes and have alligators and stuff.
All right. I'll see what I can work in, Ro. I'll do my best.
That would be funny.
So, Tim, before we go, I do want to ask you to tell the 12 science fiction and fantasy readers in Australia that this tattoo will happen if we get to 500 subscribers by the end of the year. I will get this tattoo.
Wow. That's amazing. I'm putting that out to my followers. That's going to be great. I have 30,000, 40,000 followers on Instagram. We could be getting that tattoo.
I want to get it, but me being me, I'll be like, I could go get that today, or I could stay sitting here, not go drive there, not pay a bunch of money, and I won't, my head won't hurt. So I'll just sit here in the chair instead. I mean, I'm fine with getting it. I just need the impetus to go. So
yeah, let's make that happen. Can you send me a photo of that? Because that's something I'm definitely going to get behind.
You got that dominant lazy gene, don't you, Mike?
Yeah. Oh yeah, 2 of them.
Well, you enjoy your morning down there.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to get in, do a little bit of exercise, and then get back into writing this next book. So looking forward to it.
All right. Good luck in the contest. I hope we hear the answers soon.
Thank you.
Do you know when they're announcing the winner?
I think it's the end of this month. So it's only a few weeks away, not far off.
Because I want to enter my book in the next one, and I'm like, when do I have to have my book finished by? And I can't find anything. So
yeah, I was the same at the time. I was just keep looking, follow on Twitter, and it'll pop up.
Yep. Yeah, I'm following on Twitter because the website is updated about once every 3 years.
Yeah. Twitter's definitely the place to get the news for sure.
Okay. Cool. Well, Tim, good luck. Do you know when you all are going to meet and talk together, all the finalists?
I think it's Saturday. It's about 10 p.m. my time, 2 p.m. in the States, something like that. I'll tweet it out on my Twitter, which is just at Tim_Hawken. And if anyone wants to stay updated, that's a good place to.
And EL said, nice meeting you, Mr. Hawken. I think it's probably just coincidental that he's about the same age when you were first in Vegas. So I don't know. Might not have anything to do with it, but he was being very, very respectful toward you. So take it as a win.
Well, thanks, EL. I appreciate it, son.
Okay. So now we've come to the point where we all wave awkwardly.
Woohoo! Love awkward waving.
Okay. And